You're still watching Midday News. Now we'll take you back to the story at the National Assembly, where civil society organizations are staging a protest for the mandatory electronic transmission of election results. And our correspondent, Adisa, is currently on ground at the National Assembly venue to tell us what is ongoing. Joke, can you give us an insight into what is happening on ground there? What are the demands of this group? And, what is their drive for this mandatory transmission of election results?
Yes, I can tell you now here that the National Assembly entrance has become a convergence for civil society organizations. And the icing on the cake today was the presence of the former presidential candidate of Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. He also joined in the protest. He actually attempted to gain entrance into the National Assembly and possibly meet with the lawmakers, but the security men on ground stopped that from happening. As early as 8 this morning, we have seen so many civil society groups, a coalition of civil society groups, all of them coming here in one voice. And their demand basically is that the National Assembly must ensure the passage of the mandatory of clause 60 to ensure that it approves mandatory transmission of election results real time, so such that every citizen, of course, follows the election process, and that this to them will guarantee the credibility of the elections and will also ensure fairness, brings about transparency and accountability. And that is what we have seen here, and they are still on it, and they have promised to continue with this advocacy until and unless the National Assembly, answers to their call. There is also the clause 28, which speaks to when INEC, of course, will give details of elections, which reduce that from 360 days to 180 days. The civil society groups, the protesters, are insisting that they should revert to 360 days, and this is to allow for INEC to have enough ample time to prepare and have a true, free, fair and credible election.
All right, we'll be joining the live broadcast in Abuja on the National Economic Council Summit. You can still watch this news on our other platforms streaming live on YouTube. Now, Joke, if I may continue with you, the National Assembly will be holding an emergency session, particularly the Senate, tomorrow. Do you have an idea what that live emergency session will be about?
Well, exactly. You'll recall that both chambers, of course, are now considering the 2026 appropriation bill, and so they had to adjourn plenary last week, and the upper week, and the Senate had its own last week. So they were supposed to continue with ministries, departments, and agencies of government for budget defense sessions. But the Senate president has called for an emergency sitting this time, and it is apparently to address the deluge of controversies that have faced the Senate's approval of giving concession to INEC to determine which mode of election transmission it will actually take. You recall that the 2022 amendment, the 2022 Act that is currently in session, of course, it also speaks about giving INEC the benefit of deciding which of these, either to transmit election results manually or electronically. So, but now the protesters are saying no, they must be mandatory across all states, across the country, to ensure the credibility of the election. But of course, the Senate has also come up to say there appears to be no networks, communication networks in parts of the country, and so they are trying to be considerate. So definitely, of course, these protests are the reason for this emergency session. But we will see the civil society community has insisted that they will be here until and unless the Senate passes, or the National Assembly, as it were, passes this part of the amendment bill. And so we are also waiting to see whether the Senate, of course, will stick to its guns or will actually bow to the voice of the people.
Joke Adisa, live there for us at the National Assembly. Thank you so much, Joke, for your time with us on the news.